Stephen Colbert spent nearly a decade sitting at the top of late-night television. Night after night, millions of viewers tuned in to watch his sharp monologues, clever interviews, and fearless political satire. He had survived changing audience tastes, fierce competition from rival hosts, and the collapse of traditional television viewing habits. By almost every measurement that mattered, he was winning. His show consistently led the ratings. Critics praised his performances. His interviews regularly dominated online conversations. Everything suggested that he would remain behind that famous desk for years to come. Then, almost overnight, it was over. CBS announced that The Late Show with Stephen Colbert would come to an end when his contract expired. The decision stunned viewers across America. This wasn't another struggling television show quietly disappearing after losing its audience. This was the highest-rated network late-night program, a show that had defeated its rival season after season. That immediately raised one unavoidable question. If ratings were not the problem, then what really happened? The answer turned out to be far more complicated than anyone expected. As journalists began digging deeper, they discovered a strange series of events unfolding behind the scenes. A multi-billion-dollar corporate merger. A controversial lawsuit involving Donald Trump. A settlement that shocked legal experts. Federal regulators overseeing one of the biggest media deals in years. And sitting right in the middle of it all was Stephen Colbert, a comedian who had just publicly criticized the company that signed his paychecks. Was it simply unfortunate timing? Or had one monologue changed everything? To understand why so many people questioned CBS's explanation, we have to go back to the beginning of Colbert's remarkable journey. When Stephen Colbert accepted the enormous responsibility of replacing David Letterman in 2015, expectations were almost impossible to meet. Letterman had defined late-night television for more than 20 years. His influence stretched across generations of comedians, and millions of viewers considered him irreplaceable. Anyone stepping into that chair would immediately face comparisons. Colbert seemed like an unusual choice. Most Americans knew him not as himself, but as the fictional conservative television personality he portrayed on The Colbert Report. For nearly a decade he had perfected that satirical character, speaking with complete confidence while delivering outrageous political commentary disguised as serious analysis. Audiences loved the act, but many wondered whether the real Stephen Colbert could successfully host a traditional network talk show. The transition wasn't easy. His early episodes received mixed reactions. Some longtime fans missed the outrageous character they had watched for years. Others expected him to imitate Letterman, something Colbert never intended to do. Meanwhile, NBC's Jimmy Fallon appeared untouchable. Fallon's celebrity games, musical performances, and viral YouTube clips attracted enormous audiences, making him the dominant force in late-night entertainment. For a while, it looked as though CBS had made the wrong decision. But television history has a funny way of changing when nobody expects it. As American politics became increasingly divided during Donald Trump's presidential campaign and later his presidency, Colbert slowly transformed his show. Rather than competing with Fallon through celebrity games or lighthearted comedy, he leaned into something completely different. His opening monologues became longer, sharper, and far more political. Instead of avoiding controversy, he embraced it. Every night he dissected headlines, mocked politicians, challenged public figures, and turned current events into comedy. Viewers responded immediately. Clips spread across social media. News outlets discussed his jokes the next morning. Audiences who wanted political satire suddenly had a new destination. By the end of the 2016 to 2017 television season, something remarkable had happened. Stephen Colbert had overtaken Jimmy Fallon in the ratings. What many expected to be a temporary victory soon became complete dominance. Season after season, The Late Show finished as the highest-rated network late-night program in America. Competitors changed strategies. Networks experimented with new formats. Streaming services pulled viewers away from traditional television. Yet Colbert remained at the top. For 9 consecutive seasons, he was the king of late night. That success made what happened next almost impossible to understand. When CBS announced that The Late Show would end after Colbert's contract expired, executives insisted the decision had nothing to do with ratings, quality, or content. According to the company, the cancellation was purely financial. They argued that the economics of late-night television had changed dramatically. Advertising revenue had declined. Production costs continued rising. Younger audiences increasingly preferred YouTube, podcasts, TikTok, and streaming platforms over traditional television. On paper, those explanations sounded reasonable. The television industry really was changing. Millions of viewers who once stayed awake until 11:30 each night were now consuming entertainment whenever they wanted. Advertisers were spending more money online than on broadcast television. Even successful shows faced enormous financial pressure. But something about the timing didn't sit right with many observers. Only days before CBS made its announcement, Stephen Colbert had done something extremely unusual. He criticized his own employer on national television. The controversy centered around Paramount Global, CBS's parent company. At the time, Paramount was trying to complete a massive merger with Skydance Media, a deal worth billions of dollars. Before that merger could happen, it required approval from federal regulators, making every corporate decision especially sensitive. Meanwhile, another major story was unfolding. Donald Trump had filed a lawsuit against CBS News over the editing of a 60 Minutes interview with then Vice President Kamala Harris. Paramount ultimately agreed to settle the lawsuit for $16 million, while continuing to deny wrongdoing. Legal analysts immediately debated the decision. Some believed the lawsuit itself was weak. Others questioned why Paramount would settle instead of fighting in court. Because the company was simultaneously seeking government approval for its merger, critics wondered whether avoiding a prolonged legal battle with Trump served a broader corporate purpose. Then Stephen Colbert walked onto the stage. Looking directly into the camera, he told viewers that as someone proud to work for CBS, he found the settlement offensive. He then described it as a big fat bribe. The audience laughed. Executives probably didn't. It wasn't simply another joke aimed at a politician. Colbert had publicly accused his own corporate parent of making a decision that appeared connected to political influence. Whether viewers agreed with him or not, the remark instantly became headline news. 3 days later, CBS announced that The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was ending. The timing ignited immediate speculation. Had the cancellation already been planned? Was the decision purely financial, exactly as CBS claimed? Or had Colbert's comments created problems inside a company already navigating one of the largest mergers in modern entertainment? CBS consistently denied any connection. Executives repeated that economics, not politics, drove the decision. Yet the debate only intensified. Fellow comedians quickly rallied behind Colbert. Jon Stewart voiced his support. David Letterman questioned the network's reasoning. Jimmy Kimmel publicly defended his longtime colleague. Journalists, politicians, and media analysts all began asking similar questions. If the most successful host in late-night television could lose his show while leading the ratings, what did that say about the future of the industry? Behind the scenes, Paramount's merger continued moving forward. Federal regulators carefully reviewed the transaction because CBS controlled dozens of local television stations requiring government licenses. Approval wasn't automatic. Every major corporate decision attracted intense scrutiny. During this same period, leadership inside CBS News also began changing. High-profile executives departed. Internal disagreements over editorial independence became public. Questions about the company's future direction dominated media coverage. Some observers believed these developments were unrelated. Others saw them as pieces of a much larger puzzle involving politics, business, journalism, and corporate strategy. The more events unfolded, the harder it became to separate coincidence from controversy. One thing, however, remained undeniable. Stephen Colbert's cancellation had evolved far beyond the loss of a television show. It had become a national conversation about free expression, corporate power, media ownership, and whether political pressure could influence entertainment in ways audiences rarely see. And surprisingly, one of Colbert's biggest supporters came from the very man he competed against every single night. Jimmy Kimmel knew exactly what Colbert was experiencing because he had recently faced his own storm. Rather than treating Colbert as a rival, Kimmel chose solidarity over competition. During his annual summer break, he invited Colbert to become one of the celebrity guest hosts for Jimmy Kimmel Live. For most television personalities, it would have been the perfect opportunity. It would keep Colbert in front of millions of viewers while giving fans something familiar during an uncertain time. But Colbert quietly declined. According to Kimmel, the reason was simple. It was still too soon. Rather than immediately returning to television, Colbert decided to step away from the spotlight. Kimmel respected that decision. In fact, he publicly told Colbert that the invitation would remain open forever. Whenever he wanted to return, Kimmel said he would happily step aside. That remarkable gesture revealed something many viewers never fully appreciated. Behind the nightly ratings battles and playful rivalries, late-night hosts often shared genuine friendships. They understood pressures that few outsiders could imagine. They knew how difficult it was to entertain audiences every night while navigating politics, network expectations, and constant public criticism. And Kimmel had experienced those pressures himself. To be continued.